Roman taverns offered not only food and drink, but also the sexual services of their maids. For this reason, the profession of waitress was considered unworthy. It was usually practiced by women from a very low social class, such as slaves, the poor, or foreign freedmen. If necessary, the tavern owner could send his daughters to rooms above the tavern, even knowing that by doing so he was condemning them to the lowest position in society. Slum prostitutes had a bad reputation, so respectable members of society tried not to socialize with them. Women who devoted themselves to this profession had to be easily distinguished from the crowd. The easiest way was to dye their hair in artificial colors, such as blue or red. They could also be recognized by their clothing. While Roman women wore elaborate clothes, prostitutes wore simple and light clothing. This emphasized their body shape and allowed them to dress and undress quickly. A cheap sex service cost about as much as a glass of bad wine, about 1 or 2 asses. This price applied not only to brothels, but also to the services of tavern workers. For this reason, the clientele there was of modest origin. The women, less often men, who prostituted themselves in the taverns were slaves or poor freedmen who had no hope of improving their situation. The rates of elite prostitutes were quite different. They were educated and wealthy women who not only provided sexual services, but also pleasant company. But even if they were wealthy women, to Roman society, they continued to be unworthy, no match for chaste Roman individuals. It is not uncommon for excavations to reveal mosaics or household objects with sexual themes. What today we would call pornography was something very common to the Romans. They used elements for mosaics, statues, and personal objects as mirrors. In Rome, it was believed that sex was a gift from Venus, the goddess of love, and if it was a gift, it could not be hidden or despised. One was free to enjoy the pleasures of Venus as long as it was done according to the rules of society. Although Roman society had a set of rules about sex, many citizens did not observe them at all in their intimate lives. The problem was not so much doing something that could be considered unworthy, but rather who would find out about it and, above all, who could prove it. An accusation by a free man could ruin a senator's career. If the complaint came from a woman, the accused had a better chance of getting off scot-free. If a woman was of noble birth pointing her finger at a certain person, there would surely be investigations. And if it was a slave giving information about someone's perversions, that person would have nothing to worry about. Everyone in Rome had social status, and the value of a word was directly proportional to the importance of the one who uttered it. Men or women of high social status could afford all kinds of pleasures, like Messalina, wife of Emperor Claudius, and money could always cover any mouth. All the definitions we use today for various aspects of sexuality would not have made sense to a Roman. To Roman society, sex was sex. That was it. Men could have sexual relations with persons of their own sex or of the opposite sex, and no one criticized them for it, just as long as the other person had a lower social status: servants, slaves, or even foreign free men. Married women could also maintain this type of relationship, but they had to do so carefully because their honor was at stake. Freedmen, former slaves, and foreign women could be given more freedom because the Romans did not consider them members of their society in all respects. Young men as early as adolescence often visited brothels or had relationships with servants or slaves. Male virginity was highly condemned in Roman society because men were supposed to be in charge. A girl, on the other hand, especially if she belonged to the upper class, was required to marry a virgin. It was thought that knowledge of the pleasures of sex could encourage her to commit adultery. A man could have sexual relations with anyone, but he always had to be the dominant party. The accusation that a man was a passive part of the relationship could be enough to ruin the career of even a politician or military leader. For the Roman mentality, a slave was property that could be disposed of in any way, even on a sexual level. What was important, as always, was the observance of the social hierarchy. Free men and women were in no way to give pleasure to the slave, while slaves were obliged to satisfy their masters. Women could use their slaves for sexual purposes, but it was preferable for them to use other women. If you liked the video, then don't forget to put a like and subscribe to the channel. There will be a lot of interesting, shocking, and exciting things ahead.